The judge in Donald Trump's Georgia case has ordered a hearing on the misconduct allegations Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis is facing. It is alleged that she hired her romantic partner as a top prosecutor in the case against the former president. The accusation first came out last week in papers filed by Mark Roman, a Trump 2020 campaign worker who was one of Trump's co-defendants in the Georgia election interference case, per The Hill.
Roman said the alleged relationship with Fani Willis, the prosecutor, and Nathan Wade, who was the top prosecutor on the case, makes this indictment against Donald Trump, quote, fatally defective. But, per The Hill, the filing did not contain any hard proof of the alleged relationship between Willis and Wade. Judge Scott McAfee scheduled the hearing for February 15th. So this is getting messy, and I think Fani Willis should have known it would. If you're going to mud wrestle with pigs, you're going to get dirt on you. This is what happens when you get into this kind of legal case with someone with immense resources and immense experience fighting legal cases, not so different from this one. And so this is the kind of scenario where if you're not perfectly clean in how you prosecute your well-resourced opponent, something like this is going to happen. It really sounds like a soap opera when you read about the back and forth of what's going on, the personal relationships, and how things are overtwined. I am not someone who is a huge fan of Fani Willis. Do I think Donald Trump did not act within the law? I really don't think he acted within the law. That doesn't mean I love Fani Willis. She's a prosecutor. I am of the thinking that prosecutors are like cops. I don't like people that are a part of the penal state. I have a distrust for them. So I'm happy to criticize Fani Willis here. It sounds like she acted inappropriately, but it does seem like, Donald Trump is using this as a reason to say the entire legal case against me is moot. Amber, I'm curious what you make of the recent developments.
Yeah, I mean, the evidence that's been presented so far is that this guy filed for divorce on the day he was given this top prosecutor position. Then he was paid something like $650,000 for legal services from the Fulton County's DA's office, and then used that money to go on some very lavish vacations with none other than DA Fani Willis. Now, interestingly as well, Fani Willis has attacked the estranged wife of this prosecutor because the estranged wife apparently subpoenaed Fani Willis, I assume, as part of the divorce proceedings. And Fani Willis says that the estranged wife is trying to obstruct her criminal election interference case against former President Donald Trump. Fani Willis also has not denied that there was an affair. She has not denied taking vacations with this guy. Instead, she has claimed that the criticism of her is due to the fact that she is a Black woman. She appeared at, I think it was a church event recently, where she went on this weird tirade about how everyone expects Black women to be the perfect saviors of the world, and they can't be that. And so at every turn, she is basically trying to flip the script and avoid even addressing the allegations and just claim it's all due to racism, sexism, and politics, which is quite ironic because I think a lot of people would argue that this case itself was only brought because of politics. And let's also consider the fact that she decided to prosecute this under the RICO statutes, which allowed the opportunity for all of these defendants to be tried separately. They've been able to spread their cases out, which has been a huge advantage to the former president because the people who go into court earlier, he's able to watch the case play out. He's able to see what works and what doesn't in front of the judge. So I think she has a lot of soul searching to do. It's quite possible that this romantic relationship, though, would be the downfall of a case like this because of the massive conflict of interest presented between Fani Willis and then this special prosecutor that she appointed and paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to, where they both have a vested interest in delivering a guilty verdict against a political opponent.
Now, the Washington Post, who originally obtained McAfee's order, it seems from what they've written that what's going on here is Fani Willis will have to testify and be subpoenaed in Wade's divorce case. And that is actually what would disqualify her from currently handling the case. So it's not the kind of situation where there's been some corruption that's been exposed and she'll be disqualified because she's been found to be corrupt, misusing resources. Nothing like that. It's actually that she would be subpoenaed to testify in this divorce case. And so that makes this, I think, very ironic. Just if you're not, operating your own life in a moral way, if there's an alleged affair, if there's any chance there could have been an affair, for you to get subpoenaed in a divorce case, and that gets in the way of you doing your job, step aside. If you're dealing with all of this and it's distracting from the case, find someone else who can potentially do a better job prosecuting. And so, I don't know, at this point, it feels a little bit egotistical for her to stay in this role. It's not the kind of scenario where there's public backlash and she's completely innocent. If it was that kind of scenario where they're trying to slander her, without any evidence that she did something wrong, fine. But this seems like the kind of scenario where you have this other legal matter that you're going to have to deal with, and that's actually why you can't handle this case. That seems to me pretty fair, that you have someone else step up and handle the case.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm very interested to see how the judge rules on this, and also whether or not she ends up complying with that subpoena to appear in the divorce proceedings. Typically subpoenas aren't issued without some kind of underlying reason. So just the fact that it's been issued alone is a pretty good indication that this affair probably happened. Even so, if someone is married, the fact that they would be going on lavish vacations with their boss, even if there weren't a romantic entanglement, is so corrupt and just unethical. That alone should have been disqualifying. I actually found the exact quote that she gave at this church, by the way. I think it's worth reading because it's so deranged. She said, "You cannot expect Black women to be perfect. We need to be allowed to stumble. We need grace. We are all sinners." So, she's basically saying, because I'm a Black woman, I deserve some special consideration for my circumstances or the behavior that I've been involved in. And it's just patently ridiculous. It has nothing to do with you being a Black woman that you have engaged in unethical behavior, that you might be disqualified because you have a conflict of interest, because you've been issued a subpoena in another case. This is just being a bad prosecutor and being bad at your job. And I think it actually is a disservice to all the Black women out there who are actually doing a good job and are qualified for their positions, for her to try to use that as a defense and as a cudgel against her political opponents.
Right. If what's written here by the Washington Post is correct, which, I'm going to hope it is, it does seem that the reason she wouldn't be able to handle the case is if she is subpoenaed to testify in this divorce case, which she kind of spoke to a little bit in that same speech at the church in Atlanta, where she described herself as a flawed person, imperfect public servant, and she even referenced the loneliness of her position as a reason for why she was with Wade. So not being able to meet people outside of work, you find your romantic partner at work. I think anyone who is in a serious relationship is very skeptical of, sorry, your husband's coworker was lonely and now your marriage is destroyed. It doesn't sit right with me. I think there are some scenarios, absolutely, that we've seen play out recently in the media where you've seen Black women treated unfairly. You've seen clear examples of racism in the United States of America. It's alive and well. And when you say that something is racism or sexism when it is not, it really makes it lose weight in the cases where it actually is. It's a disservice to the situations where someone is actually dealing with racism and sexism. And so I think, is that a factor in the Fani Willis case? Maybe initially it was. Her father was a Black Panther. She was attacked for her family's history there. Sure. But at this point in time, it seems it's very clear that's not what's going on. We're going to continue to follow more rising after this.